The school bell rang, echoing through the courtyard as students rushed out with their backpacks bouncing and laughter filling the air. It was the usual end-of-day chaos, friends making weekend plans, teachers reminding students about homework, and parents waiting near the main gate. But among all the noise, Ayesha noticed something unusual. Near the old banyan tree, sitting on the edge of a broken cement bench, was Sarah, the quiet girl from her class. She wasn't talking to anyone, wasn't scrolling on her phone like other students. She was just sitting there. Her shoulders were slumped, her gaze fixed on the ground, and her hands pressed over her stomach, as if she were trying to hold something together. Ayesha paused for a moment. She had seen Sarah like this before, alone, distant, almost invisible. At first, Ayesha thought maybe she was sick. But then she remembered something. Earlier that day in class, during lunch break, she had seen Sarah pretend to eat. She had opened her lunchbox, moved the spoon around, and closed it again quickly, hoping nobody would notice. Ayesha had noticed, but she didn't say anything at the time. Now, seeing Sarah sitting alone, the pieces clicked together. Ayesha walked toward her gently. "Sarah? Are you okay?" she asked softly. Sarah looked up quickly, startled like someone caught doing something wrong. She forced a smile. "Yeah, I'm fine." But her eyes told a different story. They were tired, slightly glossy, and filled with a quiet kind of pain. The kind that comes from long-term struggle, not a sudden moment. Ayesha sat beside her, leaving enough space so Sarah wouldn't feel pressured. "You didn't go home yet?" she asked casually. Sarah hesitated. "I'm just waiting for someone," Ayesha asked. Sarah shook her head slowly. "No. Just waiting." Ayesha watched her carefully. Her skin looked pale, her hands trembling lightly. Then Ayesha saw it. Sarah's stomach growled, loud. Enough for both of them to hear. Sarah quickly crossed her arms over her midsection, embarrassed to the core. Ayesha pretended not to notice the sound, but she couldn't ignore the situation anymore. "Sarah," she said gently. "Did you eat lunch today?" Sarah stiffened. She didn't answer at first. She just looked away, her eyes fixed on the ground again. A long silence stretched between them before she whispered, "No. Not really." Ayesha's heart tightened. She had grown up in a comfortable home, never rich, but never worrying about the next meal. And here sat a girl from her own class, hiding hunger, just to avoid judgment. "Why?" Ayesha asked quietly, not pushing, just trying to understand. Sarah swallowed hard. "I forgot my lunchbox." She lied. It was obvious she was lying. Ayesha didn't argue. She simply gave a soft smile and stood up. "Come on," she said. "Walk home with me." Sarah looked confused. "Why?" "Because you look like you need someone today," Ayesha said simply. "And I don't want to leave you here alone." Sarah blinked rapidly, surprised by the kindness. Nobody had ever said something like that to her at school. She slowly stood up, her legs slightly weak. As they walked out of the school gate together, Ayesha kept her pace slow, making sure Sarah wasn't struggling. The afternoon sun was warm, and dust rose with every step they took along the narrow roadside. Ayesha talked about normal things, the new math chapter, the upcoming art competition, the cold breeze that hinted winter was coming. Sarah listened quietly, nodding occasionally, but mostly focusing on keeping herself steady. After several minutes, Ayesha finally said, "Sarah, if you're hungry, you can tell me. I won't judge you." Sarah froze mid-step. Hunger. The word felt heavier when someone else said it aloud. She lowered her head, ashamed. "It's not that," she murmured, though her voice cracked. "It's just, things are hard at home." Ayesha didn't need more explanation. She gently touched Sarah's shoulder. "Come with me. My house is close. You can rest. And maybe eat something." Sarah's eyes widened as though she had been offered something forbidden. Kindness was rare in her life, so rare that she struggled to accept it. I don't want to bother anyone, Sarah whispered. You're not a bother, Ayesha said firmly. You're my classmate. And today, you're my responsibility. For the first time that day, Sarah's lips curved into the smallest, most fragile smile. And together, the two girls walked toward Ayesha's house, unaware that this simple act of kindness was about to bring two families together, reveal hidden struggles, and change their lives forever. Ayesha pushed open the small wooden gate to her house, letting Sarah step in first. The evening sun cast long shadows across the courtyard, and the smell of fresh rotis drifted from the kitchen. Sarah paused for a moment, almost hesitant to enter. For someone who spent most days going home quietly, trying not to draw attention to herself, the warmth of another family's home felt unfamiliar, almost overwhelming. Come in, Ayesha said softly, as if sensing her discomfort. Nobody bites here except my little brother. And only when he's hungry. The joke made Sarah smile for the first time that day. It was a timid smile, but enough for Ayesha to feel she had done the right thing. Inside, the dining table was set with simple dishes, lentils, rice, salad, and warm rotis wrapped in cloth to keep them soft. Ayesha rushed to the kitchen to tell her mother everything could wait. But Sarah needed food. Her mother, wiping flour from her hands, looked concerned. Is she all right? She hasn't eaten. Maybe the whole day. Ayesha whispered. Her mother's expression softened instantly. Beta, bring her to the table. I'll heat the food. When Ayesha returned to the dining room, Sarah stood by the chair, not sitting. She held her school bag tightly, as if afraid someone might tell her to leave. You can sit, you know, Ayesha said kindly. Sarah did, but she sat on the edge of the chair, her posture stiff. When Ayesha's mother placed a warm plate of food in front of her, Sarah's eyes glistened, but she quickly looked down, trying to hide it. Eat slowly, Ayesha's mother said gently. The food isn't going anywhere. Sarah lifted the first bite to her lips, and the moment she tasted it, something inside her seemed to break. She hadn't realized until that moment just how hungry she was. But she didn't want to seem greedy. So she forced herself to eat carefully, even though her hands trembled. Ayesha sat across from her, pretending to scroll through her phone so Sarah wouldn't feel watched. But she couldn't help noticing how relieved, yet heartbroken, Sarah looked as she ate. Halfway through the meal, Sarah whispered, "Thank you. I'm sorry for this." Sorry? For eating? Ayesha shook her head. Sarah, you don't need to apologize for being human. For a moment, silence filled the room, except for the sound of spoons lightly hitting plates. Then Sarah took a quiet breath. Sometimes. We don't have food at home, she said. Her voice barely above a whisper. My mom works so much. 2 jobs. But things still get hard. Since last week, we didn't have proper meals. I didn't want people to know. A lump rose in Ayesha's throat. She'd seen hunger on TV, heard about it in documentaries, but seeing it sitting right across from her, in someone her age, felt different. Heavier. Real. Why didn't you tell anyone at school? Ayesha asked gently. Because then everyone looks at you differently, Sarah said, staring at her hands. Like you're helpless. Or, they pity you. I didn't want that. Today. I just couldn't hide it. Her voice shook. On the last word. Ayesha reached across the table and touched her hand lightly. You're not alone now, okay? You can tell me. We're friends. Sarah looked up, startled. Friends? Yes, Ayesha said without hesitation. Or at least. I'd like to be. She saw Sarah struggle to hold back tears. No one had said that word to her in a long time, not genuinely, not with warmth. What about your mother? Ayesha asked softly. Does she know you're hungry at school? She tries, Sarah said quickly. She really does. But she gets home late. She leaves before I wake up. She's always tired. I don't want to give her another reason to worry. There it was, the silent burden so many children carried, protecting their parents from pain even when they themselves were hurting. Ayesha nodded slowly. You're strong, Sarah. But strength doesn't mean suffering alone. Sarah swallowed deeply. It feels embarrassing. There is no embarrassment in needing help, Ayesha said firmly. Only in refusing to help someone when you can. The moment hung between them, soft, sincere, and life-changing. By the time Sarah finished eating, her face looked brighter, calmer. Years of stress didn't disappear in one meal, but this small act lit a spark of hope she desperately needed. As they cleared the table together, Sarah whispered again. Thank you, Ayesha. Really. I won't forget this. And Ayesha knew then that kindness, when shared at the right moment, didn't just fill stomachs, it filled hearts, restored dignity, and rebuilt courage. The warm aroma of fresh chapati and lentil curry still filled the small kitchen, as Sarah quietly wiped her mouth with the back of her hand, trying not to make noise. She had eaten slowly at first, shyly, but soon her hunger broke through the hesitation. Now, with her stomach finally settled, a soft peace began to wash over her face, something Ayesha noticed with a smile. Ayesha sat across from her, elbows on the table, chin resting on her hands. I'm glad you liked it, she said gently. Sarah looked down. I didn't mean to finish everything. I wasn't trying to be rude. You weren't rude. Ayesha chuckled. You were hungry. That's all. There was a moment of silence. Not awkward, just full of unspoken gratitude and quiet understanding. Sarah's eyes glistened, but she quickly blinked away the tears forming. Before either girl could speak again, the front door creaked open. Ayesha looked up. Mama must be home early. But it wasn't her mother's familiar voice that echoed through the hallway. Instead, Sarah. Sarah. The voice was trembling, worried, breathless, almost choked. Sarah shot up from her chair, eyes wide. That's my mom. The footsteps grew louder and faster. The door to the kitchen swung open. There she was, a thin woman with tired eyes. Work, uniform, still on, hair pinned, loosely back but messy from rushing. Sweat trickled down her forehead, and in her eyes was pure panic. When she saw Sarah sitting at the table safe, fed, her lips still shining with oil from the meal, the woman froze. For a full second, no one breathed. Then her face crumbled, and she rushed forward, dropping to her knees beside her daughter. Oh, thank God. I went to your school. They said you left. I thought something happened, my phone died, I was so scared. Her voice cracked under the weight of fear she had been carrying. Sarah hugged her tightly. Mama, I'm sorry. I didn't want to bother you while you were working. Ayesha stood silently, heart aching at the sight. A moment later, Ayesha's mother entered the kitchen. She had heard the commotion and hurried to see what was wrong. What happened? She asked. Sarah's mother looked up at her, eyes red and still brimming with tears. When she saw Ayesha and her mother standing together, a sudden wave of embarrassment washed over her. She quickly wiped her eyes, stumbled to her feet, and lowered her head. I'm so sorry, she stuttered, voice trembling. My daughter. She didn't mean to trouble you. I didn't know she came here. I promise this won't happen again. Before she could say more, Ayesha's mother stepped closer and gently touched her arm. She's not trouble, she said softly. She is a child. A hungry child. And any hungry child will always find food in this home. Those words struck deep. Sarah's mother pressed a hand to her mouth as more tears slipped down. She swallowed hard. I feel ashamed. I'm trying, I really am. But some days. Her voice broke. Some days even feeding her becomes a challenge. Sarah lowered her head, guilt shadowing her small face. Ayesha's mother guided the tired woman to sit. Please. Don't feel ashamed. Hard times come for everyone. What matters is that you are doing your best with honesty. The woman nodded slowly, fighting the trembling in her lips. I work 2 jobs. I leave early, come home late. I barely sleep. And still, some days there's just nothing. Her eyes drifted to the empty plate on the table. I didn't expect her to. I didn't expect someone else to feed her. It breaks me that she didn't have to hide her hunger from strangers, but she hides it from me. Sarah's tears finally spilled. Mama. I didn't want you to feel bad. Ayesha stepped closer, placing a comforting hand on Sarah's shoulder. You didn't do anything wrong. And your mom didn't either. Then she turned to the woman. My mom always says, kindness is like a shared lamp. When you share it, your own light never becomes dimmer. Ayesha's mother nodded with a warm smile. We are neighbors. We are community. We look after each other. That is how life should be. Sarah's mother covered her face with her hands and cried, silently, not out of shame anymore, but relief. After a long moment, she looked up with a grateful smile breaking through her tears. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for feeding my child. For treating her with dignity. For not making her feel small. Ayesha's mother squeezed her hand. You are not alone. And for the first time in a long time, Sarah's mother truly believed it. The room felt warmer than before, not because of the sunlight slipping through the curtains, but because of the shared emotions filling the space. Ayesha watched as Sarah's mother wiped her tears with trembling hands, still apologizing for showing up unannounced. But her voice, once shaky, slowly softened as Ayesha's mother placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Please. Ayesha's mother said softly. There is no shame in needing help. Every one of us goes through storms. Nobody survives them alone. Those words echoed around the quiet room, settling in the air like a comforting blanket. Sarah's mother, whose name was Nadia, looked at her daughter, now full, calmer, and smiling for the first time that day. It was a smile that carried relief, gratitude, and a quiet hope. Ayesha sat beside Sarah, noticing how much lighter she looked compared to earlier at school. Hunger had a way of making someone shrink inside themselves, but kindness brought people back to life. Nadia took a deep breath. I work as a cleaner in 3 different places. Mornings. Afternoons. Evenings. Some days I leave before Sarah wakes up. Some days I return when she's already asleep. She confessed, her voice breaking again. I try my best, but some days the money just isn't enough. Some days she pretends she isn't hungry so I won't feel guilty. Sarah looked down, embarrassed. But Ayesha gently nudged her shoulder. You don't have to hide anymore. Not here. Ayesha's mother nodded. This home has enough for all of us. Whenever she needs a meal, she is welcome, no questions asked. Nadia covered her mouth, overwhelmed. For a long moment, she couldn't speak. The years of struggle, the loneliness, the fear of judgment, they all leaked through her tears. But I don't want to be a burden, she whispered. You're not. Ayesha's mother said firmly. Helping each other is not a burden. It's what makes us human. The strength in her voice made Nadia sit straighter, as if someone had lifted a weight off her chest. She finally allowed herself to breathe, really breathe like someone who had been underwater too long. After a pause, Ayesha's mother continued. We can help you look for better work, too. Something stable, something respectful. You don't have to do this alone anymore. For the first time, hope flickered in Nadia's tired eyes. You would help me? Even though we barely know each other. Ayesha's mother smiled. Kindness doesn't require old friendships, it only requires a willing heart. The room grew quiet again, but this time it wasn't heavy, it was peaceful. Ayesha poured everyone a glass of water and placed some extra food in containers for Nadia to take home. Sarah looked up at Ayesha shyly. Thank you for noticing me today. People walk past me at school every day. Nobody sees me, but you did. Ayesha felt her chest tighten. Because I know what it's like to feel invisible, she replied softly. Promise me something. Sarah nodded. Whenever life gets heavy, you come to me. Don't keep it inside. Tears shimmered in Sarah's eyes, but this time, they weren't painful, they were healing. Nadia stood up, gathering the containers Ayesha's mother handed her. I don't know how to repay you for this kindness, she said. You don't need to, Ayesha's mother replied. Just pass it forward someday. Help someone else when you can. That is how kindness grows. Nadia nodded slowly, taking those words deep into her heart. As they prepared to leave, Sarah hugged Ayesha tightly, an embrace full of silent gratitude and newfound friendship. It was a hug that carried a message stronger than words. You saved me today. When the door closed behind them, Ayesha stood quietly, reflecting on everything that had happened. Her mother placed an arm around her shoulders. You did a beautiful thing today, she whispered. Ayesha smiled. I didn't do much. Oh, but you did, her mother corrected. You fed a child. But you also fed a heart. Sometimes, that is the greatest kind of kindness. And in that moment, Ayesha realized something powerful, that one small act, noticing someone's pain, offering food, opening a door, could change the direction of someone's life. Kindness didn't need wealth. It only needed willingness. As the sun set outside, Ayesha felt something new inside her, a quiet determination to keep helping others, to keep seeing those others ignored. Little did she know, this was only the beginning.